We believe that homosexual behavior is immoral. Um, we get support from people of faith, people not of faith, some gay support, gay libertarians, because some gay libertarians disagree with the homosexual activist part of the movement. And we're just here to stand, what our sign says, that no matter what the court says, homosexual marriage will never really be a marriage. That's what our belief is.
That we stand in the presence of love, we stand in the presence of justice, and we stand in the presence of those who would choose to live their lives in a way to silence us. We will not be silenced. And you know why? Because we live and love out loud. Unapologetically. And that's why we're standing here in this moment. And what we have to understand is that why we are cheering and chanting today, that when we go home, that there is still so much more work to be done.
Stand up for righteousness. Start living in fear. Stop hating unrighteousness. You need to honor and glorify the God of the Bible in your body and in the Spirit. In your body and in the Spirit. You are not your own. You've been bought. You've been bought, and you will submit to the one that created you. You will humble yourself in His sight one day. You will confess Christ as Lord. We shall overcome
So thank you so much to everyone who talked to me when I was down at the Supreme Court, and also the decisions will be made in late June. So definitely, if you can get a chance to come down and be there, even if you're from out of town, you heard that a lot of people traveled from out of town just in that reporting. So it's amazing. It's wonderful to be down there and be a part of history. So that's it for in this issue. Every single thing that you heard today you can find at tagmagazine.com. Also, everything is available in our print issue, so you can go to get your copy and find lots of places in the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and Rehoboth area where you can actually find Tag Magazine to pick up. So now stay tuned for a message from our sponsor.
Morgan Stanley values long-term relationships with its clients. The Dupre Keating Group of Morgan Stanley's Berwyn, Pennsylvania office knows that building relationships begins with getting to know each client. Everyone has different goals, from planning for retirement to saving for a child's education. Financial advisors Dawn and Megan can create personal investment strategies to help you meet your retirement, education, wealth transfer, and other financial needs. So call Dawn and Megan at 1-800-345-3050. That's 1-800-345-3050. Investments and services are offered through Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC.
Thank you so much to the Dupre Keating Group. Definitely check them out. I had an old friend that used to always say romances and finances, and he said if one of those wasn't going right in your life, everything else felt messed up. So definitely get a chance to talk to them, and like Chelsea says, get your money right.
Get your money right.
What's hot? What's hot? Girl, we about to blow up your spot. What's hot? What's hot? Girl, we about to blow up your spot.
It's time for What's Hot, What's Not, where we give accolades to those who deserve and we throw shade at those that get served. Today on What's Hot, the Bruce Jenner interview. Did you guys watch that?
I did. I actually just watched it earlier today.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Diane Sawyer. I thought she did a really great job with the kinds of questions that she asked Bruce, but I have a couple interesting thoughts about his responses. But I'm not sure what kind of rock I was hiding under, but I really didn't know who Bruce Jenner was. Like, I'm not kidding.
Same way.
I didn't know who he was.
Of him. I think we're just from a different generation.
I know lots of things. I knew who Bruce Jenner was before.
Did you know that he was a medal, the Olympics gold medalist?
I did know that.
That's like the one thing to know about Bruce Jenner.
Yeah.
I thought it was that he was on the
was...
Kardashian show.
I knew he was I didn't know he was the greatest athlete in the world, but I did know he was an Olympic gold medalist.
I'm not even sure that, the greatest?
Yeah,
that's
his label.
That's his label. Oh,
okay. He did the decathlon, and that's like,
that is full body experience.
What an amazing time to be living in when the greatest athlete in the world, Olympic gold medalist, comes out as transgender. I mean, that's kind of touching. It's a bit of irony in a sense, but I love that that's so not what you would expect.
I hear a lot of shade just from the sides of
From the
Chelsea
side?
right now.
I mean, I watched the interview. I watched the interview.
I hear your sides.
I watched the
wanna
interview,
know what
and
your
I
thoughts
don't-
are.
I don't know. I can't quote the interview verbatim, but like there are just some. I mean, everyone's journey is their own, but I felt like there wasn't enough ownership. I'm not making any sense.
No, I mean, so when I listened to the interview, I heard him say and address the gay issue, that he's not gay. And I agree and understand that sexuality and gender identity are completely separate. But how is it that if your gender identity is female and you are partnered with females your whole life,
Yeah.
how are you not thereby gay?
I understand that, but I think at that point, when you get to that level, especially when it comes to transgender people, I think you just have to let them go by whatever they define themselves as.
I agree.
True.
I
I
agree
think
that
that's
that's-
their own journey, and however they want to say it, whatever
Yeah.
they feel inside. And I'm wondering too if it's because I do not want to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but is it because his sexual organs are male, and if he has sex with a woman, I don't know. That sounds crazy, but then
Is-
that would be
let's
like
not worry about
heterosexual
it.
sex. I don't. Yeah, and you're right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Well, I think if
So
you're going to go on national TV, right, and you're going to present this part of the community, and I think that there comes a lot of social responsibility with that kind of national attention to not represent it in a way that, I mean, if he just would have prefaced it by saying, hey, everyone's sexuality is their own, and I prefer to think of myself in this way. It didn't sound like that. It didn't come off like educating the masses in the sense that, and I agree, always defer to the individual. I know that he did address that he wanted male pronouns for now until he reemerges as whomever he will be. But to go on national TV and say, I'm not gay, but I identify as a woman and I sleep with women, I don't know that for many people, you know, America likes to judge.
Do you know how many women
Yeah.
I've fucked who say that exact same thing?
2.
Not enough. That's the number.
Well, I did think that the way that Diane sat down with him, it wasn't so sensationalized. You know, I really thought that she paid respect to him and to the issues that were being brought at hand. So I definitely appreciated that, but I know that people have a lot of qualms or questions about
Well-
some of the things that he said.
What I do
Mhm.
want to say and make sure to address is one thing that I really like that he said is that he really hasn't been part of the community. And he said, I have a lot to learn over the next year. I'm not a spokesperson. So I think when you're just like coming to that part of yourself where you're, you know, finally accepting that you're transgender and you haven't been part of the community and you do kind of acknowledge that you're going to learn a lot of stuff as you come out. So maybe I think one thing when it comes to talking about your gender, talking about your sexuality, it's okay sometimes to say, I don't know. It's okay if people ask you questions like, well, what about this? And well, how can you date women but identify as a woman but not say yourself as gay? It's okay to still be on that journey and just simply say, I don't know. I don't know. Give me time to figure it out. I might have a better answer for you. I might still end up with I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can accept that. I think
Yeah.
that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
You know, actually, before I watched the interview, I read a few articles and watched a few YouTube videos created and written by Black trans women in their own words, and they were just so on point about pointing out white supremacy as far as when it comes to covering the Bruce Jenner story.
Yeah.
And about how, you know, Bruce Jenner, credit to him, did mention the significant losses and discrimination faced by Black trans women and trans women of color.
Yeah, I did
And,
like that they put that in there.
Yeah, about how there have been too many cases of violence against trans women and their deaths early in this year in 2015, and about how like it was the first time national media had ever covered them, and about how, you know, just like how the voices of trans women, especially trans women of color, are so suppressed, and how fucked up it is that only because Bruce Jenner is white are finally these stories of our loss being heard, and about how Yeah.
But what about, like, Laverne Cox? Because I knew who Laverne Cox was ever before I knew Bruce Jenner. And I'm not discrediting anything you just said. Everything you just said is spot on.
You know what, I mean...
But there are black, queer, trans women making even bigger headlines than I thought Bruce Jenner did.
Yes.
But that's just from my very limited perspective.
I still think there are incredibly... They're so different the way... You know, because I've seen interviews with Laverne Cox and Janet Mock and other trans women who I have huge crushes on. And I think are just, like, everything, right? But, I mean, like, just the way that Diane Sawyer approached Bruce Jenner is so different from the way Katie Couric approached Laverne Cox. You know, Bruce Jenner did actually volunteer information in the interview about their physical body. But, like, Diane Sawyer was very... sensitive about the way she asked Bruce those questions, as far as, like, you know, when a black trans woman or a trans woman of color is on TV, they just straight up ask them the most inappropriate private questions. I mean, even though Laverne Cox is a goddess, right? She's still got to put up with so much shit from these ignorant people.
I'm wondering and I'm hoping that maybe people will see how that interview went, and it sucks that freaking everything, right? It takes a white male to, like, get the ball rolling. But I'm hoping that people saw that interview and people that interview other transgender people will take notes and ask the right questions and ask respectful questions. I think that he is really good at bridging that gap. I think his life is just already public. I think people would have followed him, hounded him about his sexuality, not sexuality, his gender anyway. And I think he just used that opportunity to say, you know, if you're going to ask me all these questions and, like, follow me with cameras all the time, I'm going to use it to the best of my ability to get this message out there. I do really like, though, that they did have a little segment, even if it was small, on black trans women, just so that people in middle America watching Bruce Jenner, their hero, talk about this, it was actually able to connect to the rest of the transgender community and say, like, oh, all these terrifying videos that we're seeing, it's somebody just like him that maybe we feel like we know because we know him as an athlete, or we know him through the Kardashians. So I do think that was good, but it just does, you're right, it sucks that it has to be, like, a white, famous male.
Yeah, I really, honestly appreciate the awareness to those issues, you know?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are oblivious, and they don't realize these things. They don't even realize the necessity of diversity in the media, in these anchors. Like, when they were covering Baltimore, did you hear about that anchor that mistook the what do you call them, fraternity for being gang members, and she was a white news anchor who said, and you've got the thugs right there, they're in all blue, and they are a fraternity, one of the Divine Nine, and there are people out there who don't even know what that is, and it's like, you know, the importance of diversity, also intersectionality, right? How race and sexual, there are multiple minority statuses stacked up on top of each other, and I didn't even realize that, like, you know, the Bruce Jenner, the way that he was treated. I didn't see the Katie Couric interview with, who was it, Laverne Cox? Yeah, I'm going to go back and watch it now. Now I'm going to Google and educate myself, because that's what we have to do as allies. When these issues get raised, when I read statuses, I don't just sit back and say, You know, I go out, I watch, I read, and I learn, and that's what I appreciate about these kinds of conversations.
I do remember hearing that it was awful, and sometimes I will go ahead and say it. I don't always look it up. I should, and sometimes I get back to it, but man, sometimes you're just tired of seeing all that crap.
Well, so I'm sorry that you're tired of it, because let me tell you about what's not hot. A black gay teen, 16 years old, in Atlanta, got beat up by a mob and stabbed in the face with a screwdriver. Tim Jefferson was just trying to go home at the end of a school day, and he and another classmate were attacked. And the principal sat by and did nothing. Teachers did not intervene. And then, when the police started investigating, they decided not to classify this as a hate crime. And, you know, there's multiple layers to this. He's black, he's gay, he's a youth, he's in Atlanta, in a sort of an urban, struggling population. And to not classify it as a hate crime when he and his friend were targeted because they are gay. And they actually received a lot of threats throughout the day and in the morning. Like, he knew that he was going to be threatened. And I watched an interview with his mom, and she said, this is a regular occurring thing. The school's doing almost nothing to protect him. And I think she's going to transfer schools. But what is going on in our main society, I think a lot of time trickles down into our youth. And when our gay